2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What makes a life-changing addiction recovery meeting?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, how's it going, man?
Yeah, it's good. It's good thanks to one thing.
What's that?
Snow on the slopes, man.
Finally, it did snow. It did snow this weekend a bit, at least up where I live here. It snowed quite a bit.
Yeah, snow on the slopes. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
That's mental health in the winter right there, I tell you. It's the only way to get through.
That's embracing what's in front of you with the weather.
I used to hate winter. Like, now I look forward to it.
You know what's funny about that too is, like, you know, we didn't do a lot of like skiing or anything growing up. But in the wintertime here, you get kind of that like inversion that kind of coats everything with just that like smoggy, foggy thing. And it feels like depressing. And little do you know that 30 minutes drive up the canyon, you get to like crystal white snow, blue skies, sunshine.
Like clean sunshine, like vitamin D down on your face, and you're in nature. You're with your kids. Like, it's the only way.
Yeah.
So yeah. And like you said, like we didn't do it growing up. This has been in the last, I don't know, 6 years that I've gotten into this, and it's awesome. It's kind of like hunting and fishing, and same thing, you know.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. So
yeah, it's like the tale of two weekends. You went out and went skiing and enjoyed all the weather and the snow, and I decided to be depressed on Saturday. I took a nap from like noon to 4:30 and then wondered why I was miserable.
I know, we almost canceled this recording so I could do a therapy session for you.
I'm sitting here talking to you before we go online today, like, I'm in a funk today, man. I don't know.
You better get your dog River out today and walk around the hills a little bit.
That's definitely going to have to be in order a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, Tyler. Well, we have a topic today that I think is actually a really important one. And we're going to use our years of experience and understanding, and we've seen a lot of things and a lot of people working recovery in different ways. And one thing that both you and I are a huge proponent of and love is the principles of 12-step.
Yes.
And I've referred people to 12 step throughout the years that I've treated addiction. Um, and 12 step is kind of, I look at it kind of like in a way, the spiritual side of recovery, where we do some of the therapy stuff. And so 12 step can be awesome. At the same time, um, I've also seen 12 step be problematic. And so we want to talk about what's the difference and when does it become problematic with recovery. And this, 12 step, Tyler, is not just people with addiction going to a meeting, but it's also partners who go to meetings like Al Anon and S Anon. So this applies to everybody who's wanting to work a recovery.
Yeah. So I think maybe what we should do, Brandon, today is talk a little bit about, most people listening are probably somewhat familiar, but we should maybe go through each of the steps really quickly so people understand what the principles are behind them.
Uh-huh.
Because I agree with you that I actually personally believe that the 12 steps are inspired. I really do believe that they're inspired, and the principles inside the 12 steps are an active, living, breathing sort of way of living a life that's principled, and that I do think leads to a lot of joy and happiness, like a wholehearted kind of a life. Um, and
Yeah.
and it's weird because when you start talking about 12-step stuff, you're going to get a wide range of people. Some people who have had some experience with 12-step that don't like it at all. Some people who would rather do 12-step than anything else, and everything in between. So maybe we just do a real quick overview of what the steps are, just like a kind of a rapid fire, and then we can talk a little bit about both the pros and the cons of what we see and why we feel the way that we do.
Yep. Yeah. Really quick, you mentioned like the 12 steps are controversial. Some people hate them. I've seen full programs built like the anti 12 step programs. We're not that. We don't do 12 steps. We are the opposite of that. And I get it. I understand why that it's controversial. I think that a lot of times the 12 steps are misunderstood.
I do too.
And when they're misunderstood, then people, they don't like it. And so let's get into that. And it starts with step one. Step one, I would say, is probably the most controversial step in the 12 steps.
Step one is an admission that you are powerless over whatever it is that is your addiction. So
And
basically,
that your life has become unmanageable.
the principle is honesty. It takes real soul searching and honesty to finally admit that what I'm doing in my life isn't working.
Right. And where the controversy comes is how does me admitting that I'm powerless make me better? Isn't that admitting defeat? Isn't that waving the white flag? Just telling myself that I don't have the strength. Isn't, like, why would I ever want to do that?
I admitted that I was powerless, so that almost sounds like I'm victimizing myself into never being able to change.
Yeah. And this is the paradox, and this is why it's misunderstood, because it's a paradox. So, and the truth is when I have the strength to admit the reality of what is, then it actually gives me power. And so once I have that power, then I can actually create good outcomes in my life. So think about it. Like, if I'm eating sugar all the time and I've tried to quit and I've gone on a diet and I've done this and I've done that and I've, tried all these things and I've yo-yo dieted for years and blah, 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 right? I can turn around and be like, no, I have the power to quit. And I can, with my will, try to force myself to quit yet again. But if I come to the reality of, wow, look at the patterns in my life. I've had a really hard time stopping eating these candy bars or whatever it is, right? Like, and that right there is step one. Like, oh, I can see that this has a hold on me. I can understand that this has a real strong hold on me, and unto myself with my own devices, I am having a really hard time managing this, right?
Right.
So that's an example of admitting powerlessness. So I'm not going to this like I'm just weak and I'll never ever get over this. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just getting honest. That's all it is. I'm just getting honest with the reality of what is.
It's like the what I'm doing and the way I'm operating in the world actually isn't working.
Right.
You know,
Right. That's all you're doing is admitting that.
Step one is just the reality check. That's what it is. And it's admitting that I am powerless because, and anyone listening to this could ask this right now, whatever it is you're thinking about right now, that Coke you get every day at 3:00 when your kid's about ready to get off of school, or the porn that you look at when you're stressed at work. Just ask yourself and actually put it to the test. Just go 30 days. Just go 30 days without whatever it is that you think you don't have a problem over, and watch what happens to your body and your brain and whether or not you actually go those 30 days. And you might get a reality check on that.
Tyler, how many times have you heard the stories like this? Like, well, it's an alcoholic or somebody, and they're like, well, my friends all went to the bar and I went with them and I didn't drink. Like I'm proud of myself because I didn't drink and I went to the bar. And what happens the next weekend?
They go and relapse.
they're like drunk as a fish. Like it's like, okay, on one hand, they're like, see, look, I have the willpower and I can do this. But in the end, and really, if they admitted to themselves that they're powerless, what would they have done?
They would have stayed away from the bar in the first place.
Right. And they're acting like somebody who's sober. I admit to myself that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to go to that bar. Therefore, I'm going to stay sober.
There you go. Exactly. Step 2 is about faith. It's about belief in a higher power, the need to accept that there is a higher power in the universe other than yourself. And so and you think about this, there's real power in this one, Brannon, because most of us are pretty self-centered by nature. It's the human thing to do. But if we have to be where the buck stops and starts all the time, we live in a world where it's impossible for us to always be in control. And for us, we're in a certain sense, we're hosed if we have to be the center of the universe.
Exactly. You said faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I kind of look at it, and maybe we differ on this, but it's the same thing. Step 2 is hope. Step 3 is faith. Where step 2 is like, okay, like, you know what? God's out there. Something's out there. And there's a purpose. Like step 2 is kind of like getting in that growth mindset a little bit.
Step 2 to me is acknowledging that there's something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
Step 3, I would say, is surrender. It's a willingness to surrender to the higher power, to give over the need to control, to give over the need to be the center of the universe.
Right, which I would call faith. Faith surrender. But to me, Tyler, my favorite step 3. If somebody can actually work a step 3, they're going to get better. Things are going to be fine.
It fundamentally changes the person. It's, when you get into like these first, if you look at the first kind of 3 steps, these are kind of, you might internal working, maybe even what you might call spiritual steps. And when you start to shift yourself spiritually, you also start to change everything else inside of you. And so that's why that surrender, and it's funny because surrender is so misunderstood. We could do a whole episode on surrender maybe another time. But surrender is, you hear the word surrender and it means giving up or letting go, or, sometimes that's the hardest step to do.
It's an act of courage. Yeah.
It's a faith thing, like you said.
Yeah. Well, it's what we talked about last week in talking about our program and things. It's that walking up to the threshold and having everything inside of you say, I'm scared. I don't want to do this. I don't want to give up my addiction. I don't want to like actually change. And faith pushes you past that threshold to say, okay, like I'm going to give this to God. I don't know where I'm going to land. I don't know how this is all going to work out, but like I'm going to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Mm-hmm. Let go and let God. Step 4 is all about accountability and courage. You make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. So you're looking within and saying, what am I creating? and who am I? What are some of my character defects and things like that? So you start making a moral inventory of what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, this one takes a lot of shame resiliency because you're looking at the flaws that you've been spending a lot of time trying to cover up or hide or protect from. And so it takes a lot of courage to step in and do that fearless moral inventory, which is where you actually take a look at yourself and go, man, like what is the body of work that I've amassed as a result of my problems?
Right. So you're starting to get curious with yourself and starting to see like what are those things going on inside of you. Um, Step 5 takes that to the next level. Step 5 is about owning it. And I love step 5 because it's about doing the opposite of what in your addiction that you've done with your shame, which is hide. Step 5 is about admitting to God, admitting to others about those character defects that you have.
The exact nature of your wrongs.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah. Another word for that would be maybe the beginnings, and we could argue this too, Brannon, but integrity. It's starting to actually take steps towards integrity, taking ownership for, and then being willing to handle the pressure of taking ownership for the choices that you made.
You're shifting from manipulation and secrecy and trying to juggle all these things to like, no matter how painful and no matter how hard it is, I will own it. I will own it, and that's what integrity is. I'm now in alignment with the truth, with what that is, and it can be scary, it can be hard, but it's awesome. Okay. Steps.
But were we on six? I got lost. Are we moving into six?
Yeah, we're moving into 6.
Okay, so 5, we admitted to God, ourselves, and at least another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6 is we are entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character.
You know, that's funny about this one, Tyler, is you read that and it's like, oh, that sounds fun. Like, this might be one of the hardest steps. And I actually think it's one that is very important of like, I'm going to allow God to love me. I'm going to allow God to show up for me. I'm going to allow God to take this. And, you know, when you get over the guilt and the shame and that type of stuff, and you've been working up to step 5, to actually let go of that control and hand it over can be kind of scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but before we go any further, Brown, we have a comment over here, just maybe before we get too far away from step 5. It says, if telling someone something will hurt them and probably hurt the relationship, do you need to tell them? I've asked God for forgiveness and I have changed my ways. I don't think step 5 is about telling necessarily the person yet, about a certain person that you've hurt, right? Step 5 is about bringing it to light and taking ownership for yourself to God and to at least another person. Speak it out loud.
Yeah. So it's not making amends. We're not there yet. So you might tell a sponsor, you might tell a friend that this thing
Your
happened
group or something.
Yeah. So you're not quite making amends yet at step 5, but we will get there, and we'll talk about down the road here what that actually looks like, so that you're not harming people when you make those amends.
Yeah. Right. All right. So did we get to? We reread 6, and then did we finish talking about it, Brannon?
I think so. It's just allowing God to take it.
Yeah, being willing to let God be a part of that process.
Yeah. And step 7, you humbly ask Him to remove your shortcomings. So you actually go and you involve a higher power.
It's
and maybe
the ongoing
Tyler,
wrestle with God.
Yeah. And maybe we need to have a short little discussion about higher power, because that's one of the other controversial things about 12-step is, you know, atheists will come, or, you know, if there's a certain, like where we're at, there's a certain religion that is the religion around here. And it's like, well, what if I don't subscribe to that? Then how does this meeting apply to me or work for me? This isn't my religion. And as we've been going down these, we're talking about God this, God that, higher power this, higher power that. You know, the 12 steps does a really good job if you look closely at Bill W. and the way it was created of giving space for anyone to decide what that higher power is.
People come up with all sorts of different higher power type things, you know. So it's like a set of principles can be a higher power. Another figure in your life could be a higher power. I remember hearing the story. It's kind of a funny story of the lead singer from Blue October talks about being in his like program trying to get through it, and he can't get through the steps to find a higher power, and he's sitting out in the back patio one day, and he's like, God, like I'm trying to find you, I can't find you, I don't know who you are. And he's like, well, I'm sitting here pondering and trying to pray to God, whoever God is. There's this bee that keeps flying around, and this bee keeps like trying to climb into an actual bottle of bee spray that's out on the back patio. And I'm sitting there like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this? Like, all you're doing is you're coming back to the very same place where all your friends have been killed. You keep coming back to this shit. Like, what are you doing? And then he's like, click, like, oh, that's how God showed up for him in that day. It was like, he sent him a message through a bee in a bee can, right?
Yep.
And what the 12 steps do, I think, is a great thing they do is they allow room for each individual to have their own wrestle with a higher power.
Yes, their own unique wrestle. And ultimately, Tyler, you know, addiction is someone's attempt to find God. Recovery is someone's attempt to know and feel God in many ways. But we're not telling you what God is. We're not telling that would be counter to what this is all about. If we're like, yeah, you have to find this specific thing in order to get better, then you will miss all this faith we're talking about, all the wrestle we're talking about. This is designed to put you in this position so that you can know that you're loved in the way that you're uniquely loved.
Another way of looking at that would be to say that we're all going to worship something. And if you're addicted to something, you're actually worshiping the thing you're addicted to in a certain sense.
Right.
And so even if you have a hard time conceptualizing God or who God is or what that is, there would still be reason to wrestle with who a higher power might be other than the thing you're currently worshiping, because what you're worshiping isn't working.
Yes, that's well put. Let's keep moving on the 12 steps here.
Here's where we get to EJ's kind of question, steps 8 and 9.
Yeah. So step 8, made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
This is a hard step, but it's so powerful when people do this.
Hey, Tyler, have you ever gotten calls from people like, hey, I want to make amends?
I've gotten messages before from people. I've gotten a card before in the mail. I know I was talking to my daughter. She had this happen. Like, she had a boy who was a bully to her when she was like in 3rd grade. Now she's, married and stuff. And she's like, I got this weird, like, message from, do you even remember this kid's name? I was like, oh, I remember him. Like, I was going to, I hated that kid. She's like, he reached out to me out of the blue and was just like, I'm so sorry for all the things that I did to you when you were younger and how mean I was and how much I bullied you. And like,
dude,
like,
that makes me feel so good, man. Like, yeah, that sucks that she had to go through that, but like, good on him, man.
Yeah, good for him. He's probably had a little bit of a rough life. I assume that he's probably gotten into some 12-step work and started going, oh man, like
I got some things to clean up here.
I got to go clean some stuff up and make some amends. And for him to do that, I mean, it sounds weird because it was a 3rd grade thing, and it really was impactful for my daughter to receive that.
Yep. Well, the thing about it is addiction is an attachment disorder, and addiction isolates, it manipulates, it gaslights, it does all the things in relationships, and whatever it is, whatever the sex or drugs or whatever it is becomes the most important thing, then the relationships can suffer however much they need to suffer because I got to get to my next hit. And so it, like, some of the things that I've seen people struggling with addiction do to the people that love them the most, that would do anything for them, makes no sense. Like it's like, how could you do that to someone who loves you so much? Um, and so there's some real hard amends to make. Um, and you know, I've done couples, I've facilitated like some some step nine work with people where they've sat down with family members and tried to make those amends, and it's complicated and it's hard, but it's so important.
A couple things with this. It's interesting that this is broken into two steps because the first step is I just made a list of all the people I've harmed and become willing to make amends. Right. And this comes back to step one in honesty too, is am I actually willing to make amends? And then the second one is the actual action. And this is the answer to EJ's question. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or other people.
Yep.
But that has to be some honesty, some self-honesty, because there's going to be a part of you that's like, I don't want to bring up old stuff and hurt them again. Like that's a little bit different than actually harming somebody, right?
Yeah. And there's some cases like of abuse and things where it's like that person needs space from you. And so your heart might be in a place of sorrow and accountability and honesty and humility. It doesn't mean that you selfishly then go contact them and say, "Hey, I need to make amends, so you better like listen to me." They might still need their space, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that one I think is interesting because there's the internal work of this is me and can I cultivate my heart to it, but then there's the external work was actually seeking out and with amends, I think something that's interesting about amends is too many people think that amends means that you have to go and then become best friends with somebody again or repair the relationship all the way back to where it was, and that's not what it is. Amends is the taking of accountability and then the attempt to repair whatever is possible to repair, if it's possible to repair. But it doesn't mean you're going to go be best friends with somebody because we run into this a lot where, like, say I'm working with a couple and let's say one of the spouses is doing the step work and there's an old flame that they've realized that they've harmed from years past and they feel like they need to go make amends. You know, the partner who's in the current relationship is like, no, you're not reaching out to them. You can't go say, don't open that one up again. Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
There's a way to make amends. It could be done in the form of like a letter that's like, hey, these are things from the past. I want to acknowledge them. I'm sorry, whatever, without having to open it up and be like, all right, so we're going to talk every Friday again and hang out a little bit. And like, no, that's not what amends is.
Well, and honestly, like depending on certain boundaries and things and like maybe you make those amends just in your journal. And I know it's like, well, you didn't go out of your way to like let them know, but maybe that's all you can do is to just like,
yeah, I think it's really important, except when to do so would injure them or others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Step 10 is about consistency and discipline. Continue to take personal inventory, and when you are wrong, to promptly admit it. I really like this one, Tyler, because we talk about all the time, especially in our program and things, that the journey doesn't end, and you will never be perfect. You will never be 100% like totally sober, if you know what I mean. Like there will still be triggers, there will still be some slips, there will still be some things that happen. And to realize that so you can take a step back and be like, okay, like I got to own that now. I'm living my life on the surface. I'm living in my integrity. I'm taking the principles of these 12 steps that I've practiced and learned, and I'm actually instilling them into my day-to-day life and the way that I'm living now.
That's what step 10 is it's basically taking all of those principles that you've now systematically worked through, but you've adopted them into your way of life. And now you're taking almost your own inventory of those things every single day.
Yeah.
So I've worked the steps, yes, but working the steps also means that each one of those steps has principles like honesty, faith, surrender, soul searching, integrity, acceptance, humility, willingness. And then 10 is the maintenance step of now I'm gonna maintain all of those principles as I move forward with my life.
Yep.
Step 11 has to do with continually wrestling with God, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power for us to carry that out. So just kind of the constant wrestle.
And the constant, and I wouldn't just call it wrestle, like there's positive there too. The constant nurturing, the constant connection, the constant relationship that you have with a higher power, and the constant surrender as well.
Yeah. And then the last one is it's based on service. Having had our spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs.
Yep. So now you're loving, you're giving to others, you're serving.
You're turning back around and taking the principles that you've learned and trying to help infuse those things into the lives of the people you love.
You're sponsoring people, your staff member at retreats, like recovery becomes this part of your life that's beautiful, and you're involved in community. And I've seen guys going to meetings for like 40 years and they've been sober for 35.
Yeah.
But that's part of, they're still working the 12 steps. It's still part of what they're doing.
That's their way of giving back. That's their way of staying connected to those principles.
It's awesome. Tyler, you and I rely on these people in our work because they're rock stars. When they're really working that 12th step, it's like, hey, like come peer mentor a group, or can I give your number out to this person who's really struggling? Like they could, and they're like, yeah, like I'll talk to them. Whatever I can do, So the 12th step is awesome.
Principally speaking, Brannon, you look at that list, I don't think there's too many people that would argue with the principles of that list. Like live a life of humility, honesty, accountability, service, willingness, but where I think you and I sometimes run into problems and other people run into problems a lot of times is kind of the culture that sometimes gets built around certain kinds of meetings based off of the 12 steps.
Yeah. So if we can talk about the things we don't like.
So the 12 steps in and of themselves are wonderful.
The principles are amazing. The 12 steps are inspired. The culture of some of the meetings actually becomes counterproductive to the 12 steps.
Some of the meeting and counterproductive to the actual 12 steps.
Yeah. Some of the meetings and some of the culture is, and honestly, Tyler, when you take a lot of people who are resonating in shame and they come together, what do they resonate in?
More shame.
And unknowingly they think that they're just following the white book or the blue book or whatever, the big book, but like unknowingly there's like energy there that is about shame and fear and control and proving it, and so some of the cultural things with 12 step can really undermine recovery, I believe.
Yeah, it goes back to that very first step of admitted that we're powerless. If I admit that I'm powerless with accountability, I'm moving forward into the 12 steps. If I admit that I'm powerless with nothing but shame, then I'm going to go to a meeting and it's going to be like, hey, I'm Tyler and I'm an addict and I suck. And everyone's going to be like, hi, Tyler, we suck too.
Yeah, right? And literally it's that feeling.
That's not what we're trying to go for. The 12 steps are actually an active moving way forward. And you want to make sure that if you're going to a meeting, you find a meeting and a sponsor who sees the steps as an active way forward rather than just like a group of guys who get together and talk about how terrible they are every single week.
Yeah. I would also add, like, I think this is a bit more pervasive in sex addiction 12-step groups. I think there's a level of shame there about sexuality and that side of us that can really fuel, trying to be perfect, trying to be pure, trying to be chaste, trying to do those type of things. And then the meeting becomes, well, how sober were you? So how pure were you? How righteous were you? And so it can lead to this like just fear and control and shame cycle, all together in like a sex addiction group, 12-step group.
Right. So, okay. So again, I'm going to repeat these and then ask yourself if you go to 12 step or if you're looking for a 12 step, you're looking for a group that reinforces principles of honesty, faith, surrender, soul searching, integrity, acceptance, humility, willingness, forgiveness, and service. And if you're going to a group that is reinforcing those principles and you're working with a sponsor or a team or a set of other people that you're working with that are reinforcing those principles, then you're probably in a good spot. If you're going to a place to read through a chapter about, say, forgiveness, but then the energy of the group is more about like shame, then you're missing out on all the goodness that the 12 steps offer.
Well, and Tyler, and I mean, we don't have to go down this road too far, but the feeling that you'll get at a good like group, a good men's group, is that it
Or a women's
empowers.
group.
Well, no, a men's group, it empowers healthy masculinity, and a woman's group will empower healthy femininity in so many ways. Like you go there and it's like, man, like I'm starting to feel who I am, and I feel confident, and I feel good about who I am. If you go there and you just feel like, ugh, like, yeah, I'm weak. They're all weak there. And I'm not saying we're trying to judge anybody, but like the energy there is just like we beat ourselves down and we become less of a man or less of a woman as a result of going to those meetings. But oh goody, I was sober, right? And I'll put everything on that in order to prove myself. That's not working the 12 steps.
Right. And I would just say to clarify a little bit what you just said there, Brannon, a good meeting, whether it's a 12 step group or a therapy group or whatever else, it won't be comfortable. Like there will be pain, there will be stretching, there will be growth, there will be
A good sponsor is going to hold you accountable.
Yeah. So what you're saying isn't you're not going to a group where all you do is sing kumbaya and tell each other how amazing you are, but you're going there and the discomfort you're stepping into is towards something. It's towards growth. But it will be uncomfortable.
Right. Just like a good therapy group.
Right. So if I go to a group and it's like, oh man, like there was this discussion and it twisted my brain up a little bit and I have to think about stuff and wrestle with it and I got to figure out what parts are true for me. That's great.
Yeah.
Like that's great. But if I go there and it's like, yeah, I went to a meeting, let's say a women's meeting, and we all talked about how horrible life is and how bad our husbands are. And I just felt miserable afterwards. That probably wasn't a very effective group for that time. Right.
Right.
But if I went to the same group and I was like, man, I am having a hard time and I'm feeling betrayed and I don't know how to work through that. And then there was some discussion back and forth and I'm working on whatever the step is that I'm working on. Yuck, this is hard. It's stretching me. I don't even know if I want to step into this work. I don't know if I want to step over the threshold of trusting again or whatever. That discomfort is good work.
They're bringing you back to the principles of the 12 step. And like the group will bring you back to those principles of the 12 step instead of run with, like, we just got a comment here. Women's groups are hard. There can be a lot of coddling. Instead of running with the coddling, the disempowering, teaching you to play the victim, teaching you to earn it, to overcompensate.
It's tricky because there needs to be validation and empathy at the same time that there's a push for change. There needs to be both.
Both that elected there can exist. And if it doesn't exist, then the culture can be problematic.
Yeah. Yeah. Love the comments over there, you guys, today. Thank you for your comments. Any of the last thoughts here, Brannon?
No, Tyler, one thing I just say is there is a difference between a therapy group and a 12-step group, and Tyler and I are both big believers in both, and they support each other. In 12-step, you're not doing a lot of the deep trauma healing work, really understanding your unique experiences that you've been through. Getting clear with your faulty core beliefs, shifting those things. So we do a lot of that in therapy. We really get into what's going on inside of you in therapy. In 12 steps, you do a lot of spiritual work. You learn these principles. You practice shame resiliency. So it supports each other. And for anybody struggling with addiction or anybody whose partner is struggling with addiction, if you can, I would really recommend, and I know it's a like a big thing to add in life, but if you could find a good 12-step group and you could find a good therapy group, those two things every week can change your life.
They kind of work together because the principles of a good therapy group are going to overlap a lot with what the 12 steps are, but the therapy group's going to address certain deeper aspects of even some of those 12-step principles, and also the individual part of it that's like my shame, my trauma, that kind of stuff. And the 12 steps are going to be principles that I'm going to be adopting as a way of trying to live a wholehearted life.
Yep. Tyler, thanks for talking this through. This is fun to talk through the 12 steps.
It's been a long time since we've talked 12 steps. We probably ought to do it a little bit more.
Yeah. So you guys, go surrender, go find your higher power, get accountable, all of the things. And till next time, keep on keeping on.